Let's go.
Hello, everyone. My name is William, and today I'm here with Robin for a special episode because it's just the two of us. How are you doing, Robin?
Very good. A bit of a weird experience for us, but a bit excited to.
Yeah, this one is a bit weird because we've done 10 episodes so far, so it's been like I think 3 months since we started the podcast, and we were thinking about what we wanted to do next, or if we wanted to do like a special episode where it would be just the two of us, and we felt that now would be the a good moment to do it. So we'll try to go a bit inward today and try to assimilate some of the learnings that we've made over the last 10 episodes.
Yeah,
So yeah.
the idea is a bit to, yeah, give you a bit the lessons that stand out for us of the 10 first episodes, and as well give you a bit of a personal context and show you a bit of the behind the scenes in a way of how we are handling and living this project every day. And trying to make it interesting and relatable for you.
So I think what's best, maybe, because we haven't had the opportunity to do it really for the moment, would be just to introduce ourselves to you guys listening, guys and girls listening, and talk to you a bit about what is emulation, why we started it, and why we are having this podcast. So, Robin, just before we started the call today, told me that instead of introducing ourselves, maybe it would be better if the other would introduce us, if that makes sense. So, do you want to start or should I go first?
I can go first.
Okay.
Okay, so that gives me a bit of a English class vibe, but let's go. So William is a Finnish and French guy. He's 25 years old, and he's
Yes, that's
living
correct.
in France. He has lived in France his whole life, and basically, he's his relationship with sports came a bit later. He was more of a video games type of guy. I
That's
mean,
true.
he did sports, but he didn't really commit to one, and he was not passionate to a specific type of sport. He was more about yeah, coming back home and playing League of Legends or whatever was on his mind at the time. And so that came a bit later, um, more at at university where he felt he needed to find something else and to maybe liberate himself from some of the troubles he had to maybe find his acceptable level of happiness, I'd say. And so he started go all in. He's a guy that goes all in quite a lot, maybe too much sometimes. And so he started to run like crazy. He did marathon training after just a few months of starting running, and he also not applied, but he book he
Signed
book
up?
his he signed up, yeah, for half Ironman at first,
Yes, it was the half at first.
and then full Ironman. And I think this this happened in a span of 3 years, maybe, from you starting to
Yeah, I think pretty much. I started running at first, but I couldn't really handle the training load, so I was just being injured, training, being injured, and then triathlon was the sport I could do without being too much injured. So, yeah, that happened in almost 3 years, which bring us to almost today.
yeah. So to sum up a bit, I'd say that William is a pretty intense guy who likes to set high and difficult challenges. But as well, I think you're quite playful with the background of video games. So I think, yeah, it's a bit of a mixture between suffering and having fun
No, but
while
it's
being
interesting that
really
you say,
consistent.
yeah, it's interesting that you say the word playful because I feel I've been too serious about my training for a long time. And one of the learnings that we will come to speak about in a few minutes is about that notion of enjoyment, being playful with your training, and just balancing the fact of like being too serious about a sport and actually enjoying it. So that's funny that you say that. But as for you, the thing is, we met quite late in that I think we met when we were 20 years old in Lille, which
Yeah.
is the city in which we both studied. So Robin was actually, I think, born or at least raised in Lille or in the suburbs of Lille. Um, the difference is that since the beginning, you were really into sports. So both playing, let's say, at school with your friends and outside of school, a lot of football, so a lot of soccer. And you are, and since a very young age, a fan of a very specific football club, which is the LOSC.
Yes.
I never quite remember what it stands for, but I think it's Ligue
Lille
Lille
Olympique Sporting
Olympique
Club.
Sporting Club, exactly. So that's been a constant in your life to support that club through the highs and the lows. Um, and regarding sports, I think maybe when you started to study, you didn't like maybe you didn't do as much sports as you would before with your friends in high school, I presume. And but you had that still that pretty good balance, I feel like, in that you were taking care of your body maybe more than other students. Like I feel you've always been the guy that was eating cleanly, that had like a clean apartment. That the funny thing is every time I have lunch with Robin, he always cooks me like really nice lunch, really nice plates. So he's someone that takes, I don't know, not pride, but that enjoys making things nicely. So it goes the same with the videos that you see of us on Instagram. He was the first one on our videos to really go the extra mile with the subtitles and being obsessed with how blurry the subtitle should be, and if we should use the overlay or the difference, whatever opacity modes on the subtitles. So that's something that you've been
Yeah.
like pretty good at and maybe obsessed about it
Mm.
at some point. And you tried before doing this emulation project to do other things, other projects related to sports, because I think you never really had the thrill of working in a corporate company uh, after we both graduated. So you were trying that and you ended up, I think, doing a website in which you were writing actual analysis of football tactics or just themes of modern football, I would say. Maybe
Yeah.
you could describe that a bit better. What was the name of the project? Football Future?
It's like what like yeah, football future, and I was like trying to find angles that were interesting to me about football, and trying to analyze
Mm.
specific teams, analyze like uh, the impact of a manager change. I mean, it was taking so much time, and it was not very rewarding at the time. But I mean, it was the start of wanting to do something different,
Yeah.
and that goes in what you said in that I had a very obvious passion throughout my life that was football and sports in general, but specifically football. And so, sometimes when you have an obvious passion and that you struggle to do something with it, and it takes a lot of time in your life, and you feel like it's a waste of time that of not using it to professional purposes, even though, I mean, it doesn't have to be like that. But I had this kind of feeling in the back of my head that it was a it was like, yeah, wasteful not to do anything with it.
Mm.
And so, as I was not good enough to do anything related to playing football at a high level, or to coach or anything like this, I knew maybe the journalistic or creative aspect of it was maybe my shot at having maybe
Yeah.
something related to this. So I
And
think you
like
you did a good
and I think there was like maybe one nice kind of parallel we could do between you and I is that like my coping mechanism for not liking the corporate jobs I was having then before starting Emulation was to do a shit ton of sports, and maybe yours was to play Football Manager and then
Yeah,
write these articles about soccer. So
I think Football Manager, and if people play in the audience, they might understand. I think it was what was filling the the whole of not being stimulated enough in my life, and it gave me a sense of having a project that was really entertaining, and that I mean I couldn't sleep sometime because I was thinking about how should I change my tactics to win the next game. And
yeah,
so, I mean, it was very thrilling, and as at the same time, it was a bit maybe depressing at times because I knew, I mean, I could understand that I was using it as a coping mechanism because I wanted to do something meaningful in sports. So maybe we'll stay at this stage in terms of presenting each
I
other.
think it's enough.
And we'll give you more in the next episodes, maybe in these special episodes.
If you like it,
Yeah,
if
if you
you
like it.
find it boring, then we can just skip through to the learnings that we've done. But speaking of meaningful project, maybe like a few words on just what is emulation and why we started it. So to us, this feels like the most, or at least to me, that the project that has the most meaning for me. Uh, right now, the only thing that emulation really provides us is great conversations with athletes and meaning. We don't get any money from the project yet, but we've got the vision to make a living with this project. We are not quite sure right now, and still with Robin, on how we are going to make it happen. But the bottom line is we are both of us really committed in this project. I left the job that I was having already like a year ago, but I wasn't working on emulation at the moment then. But we started to have the idea of emulation, I think, a year ago, and things kind of really grew maybe 6 months ago. And you joined. I mean, you joined. You left the company.
Mm.
You were at. I think when was it?
At the end of January
Yeah.
this year.
So this is still, yeah, pretty fresh in terms of being committed to this project. But emulation to us is the project that we want to work. One reason is because we really didn't like the jobs we were having before, and we were always wanting to do something that would feel like play. Like there is that kind of nice sentence that I like, which is um, what feels works to some people should feel like play to you. And if you're able to find something that fills that criteria, then you're in a very good spot to make things work for you, because you'll be able to just do more of it and enjoy it more and being more genuine about how you do it. And I feel like if I could make a living making great conversations with athletes that I like inspire, and then make some cool videos with it and share these lessons and the journeys of athletes, then I feel like it would be a win for me. So
Yeah,
it wasn't maybe the best way to introduce the project, but
no, but that's I think it's always giving some context to people, and I guess what we could add is that for now, what we try to optimize for and focus on is how fulfilled we are with the project and trying to do the thing that we like until it gets maybe monetized, but we are trying to put in a way purpose and meaning first, and then money will be the second objective.
yeah,
Maybe it's the wrong strategy, but we feel like it's it's also the reason why we are able to do this at the moment. Um, and when I say do this, is inviting athletes, making videos that we want and that work quite well, is because we trust our instincts from the beginning, and we want to continue a bit on that road before maybe selling ourselves to different opportunities.
yeah. And for now, like we are both French. English is not our first language. We had a like we learned English quite well at school and at university, but it's still not the thing we are the most comfortable with. I feel like right now we are more advanced in how good we are, let's say, in video editing rather than podcasting. And podcasting of itself is really like a huge competence, a huge skill. Like when because Robin and I, we both listen to a lot of podcasts online, and when you hear some conversations that people have on podcast, it's just crazy to see how good they are and how clearly they are able to explain ideas and have genuine conversations with people for like 3-4 hours. It's something that is really impressive. So we'll be thriving for that, and we feel that there is also maybe like a gap in that I don't really listen or have found personally podcast that interview the athletes in which I'm interested in a way that I really like it. So we'd like to fill that gap, give a voice to some athletes that maybe wouldn't have that chance to express themselves otherwise. And we just feel that sports has so much potential in terms of helping people live more, let's say, meaningful life, because you learn so many things, or I have, at least in my personal life, and I'm sure you have done also the same, Robin, with like any level you are in sports, like you will learn something from actually pursuing a project. And yeah, so sports has the potential to give us a lot of lessons, and we'd like to share them with you on this podcast, basically.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a great transition to sharing the lessons that stood out from the first 10 episodes that we did. Obviously, you've not listened to every one of them, and if you have, then you're a genius, and you should you should be like you should have the medal, the emulation medal. But yeah, we met 10 great guys, and we should now invite more women, to be honest.
We
But
have
for now,
some girls
yeah,
in the pipeline, if we
yeah.
could say.
So
But yeah, it's coming.
we met 10 great guys that had that trusted us on this, and they could have said no because it was an easy no. I mean, we didn't have any experience with the podcasting, and there was no face on the project, and so we are very glad, and we thank them for letting us interview them and have a conversation with them. And I think we're not gonna do it chronologically because
Okay.
it's the easiest way, and we'll start with Jake Barraclough.
So basically, the thing is, we just wanted to record this episode together, but we haven't talked about to each other about what we actually picked from each episode. I haven't done the homework to the extent that Robin did it. Like, I haven't picked a lesson from each episode, but I have listened to each of them, or at least edited a part of them. So I should be able to pick on what on what you're going to
Yeah,
say. And yeah,
it's
let's go with
it's no
Jake.
worries. If you don't have a lesson for one, I can share one, and then we can discuss it. Because
Okay.
what we want to try and do is share a lesson, and try also to see how it has impacted us in the project, and how it could impact maybe someone in his I'd say normal life,
Yeah.
without making it too much of a sharing a wisdom that we did not experience. Like we want to make it relatable. And if you're cringe, then maybe it's because we did the wrong way. Let us know.
Yeah, but yeah, and I feel like also like I need something to be repeated like 1,000 times before my monkey brain kind of picks it up. So I'm not afraid of being repeating here.
Yeah.
So
So first, let's start with Jack Barraclough.
yep.
He was like a
But I'm
crazy
still not sure about the pronunciation of the last name.
Jake Barraclough.
Barraclough?
Say like Barraclough.
I don't know.
Ran to Japan on YouTube. He's
Yeah.
a an English marathon runner that went to Japan and tried to embrace the Japanese way of running. He's a great guy. Really nice story. It's this podcast that worked the best, and
Yeah.
it was the first one with a shitty mic and a weird English from our side, but it was
Yeah.
really good. And the lesson from this one is the lesson that he's trying to like, I mean, share to the world. It's train harder, not smarter. And why did I pick this one? It's because I feel like, and with this project even more, um, action usually is is sometimes better than thoughts and reflection, and I think sometimes consistent actions every day is better than a thoughtful plan, because a plan is usually very difficult to follow, and once you are still you see that there's a bump in the plan, when you see that there's unexpected things in the plan, then it starts to be a bit, it can start to be a bit depressing. Whereas when you commit yourself to doing things every day, even if you don't really know what's gonna happen next, what's the what's the goal, usually it's less anxiety. I mean, it gives you less anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And as Pitbull said, paso corto, vista larga, short steps, long vision. I think short steps, long vision is what's helping me the most every day. Because with emulation, sometimes we don't really know where we're going. I mean, I did a video on Kevin De Bruyne this week, and I don't really know why. What's the purpose of this video for the project? But I know that the only thing I control is, okay, or I think about it for 10 hours and I wonder if it's a good thing to do, or I do it
Mm.
and we'll see. And so I guess his
But
vision is a bit like this.
yeah, and I feel you're also someone that maybe, and I think many people fall into that trap of being very self-reflective. Like you spend a lot of time thinking about why you're doing things and if it makes sense and would there be something else to do instead of that.
Hmm.
And in that, when you're in that situation, like action will always beat whatever kind of ruminating moment you would be in.
Yeah.
But I think I understood it a bit differently, the train harder, not smarter. And I think it really, like the important word to me here is like kind of training. So it really applies to training for me the most because I feel like there is so much bullshit online these days on how you should be training and what you should be focusing on. And the reality of it is like there are some very basic principles, like volume is important. The more you run, the better you will get. So stop thinking about how you should be running your next, how you should be doing your next run. Just go and do it. And no matter what you do, it will always be like 100 times better than not doing it, unless you get injured. But apparently, getting injured part doesn't really apply to Jake as he's running like 200 kilometers a week. But I saw that he got actually injured at the marathon in Tokyo because he was pushing so much that he fucked up his knee. But I think he's already
Mm.
back on training and he's like already doing 200 Ks again every week. So yeah, that's a
Yeah.
real machine. But
And
yeah,
the thing is not to say like go all in every day. I think it's a bit of bullshit sentence as well. But it's more, you know, as you said, the train harder is like really train when you should train, and the not smarter is a bit like if if being smart in a way for you is a way to, sorry for
avoid the training.
saying a way too much, but if being smart is something that tricks you to not doing things because
Yeah.
you have a great reason for, oh no, maybe I should rest, or maybe no, I should not do this video because it's not gonna be really useful, but in the end it's because you think, oh, I mean, it's too long, or it's gonna be boring, or I don't have the courage, or I don't have the motivation to do it. Then you should just keep the train harder part, and the smart thing, they will come uh, once you pushed enough to deserve to be smart.
Yeah.
Let's say.
It's just an excuse masquerading itself into like it's trying to be smart about your training, but the reality is that you should just be training and that
Yeah,
there is no issue
and
going on really.
I don't apply it yet as much as I should.
No,
But
but it's hard. It's hard. And
yeah.
that's why most people, I think, prefer to have a more smarter approach on the training in that they will be suffering less.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I think you have to find your own balance in how smart you want the training to be. But just know that if you go the smart way, it's going to take a lot of thinking, and it's going to be really annoying in the end. So maybe my advice would be to just try it for yourself and then see what works for you. And probably I think, and I feel that's the way for most people, is that they tend to just don't give a shit at the end, not even start the running watch, and just go and run by feel, and they
Yeah.
will enjoy the things way more. The other lesson that I had with Jake wasn't about this mantra that he had, and then we'll move on to the other guest. But it was just this quick thing, and he was telling that all the Western runners are very lazy. And the thing is, I like this sentence because um, he realized that he was being lazy with his training once he found out about these Japanese runners that were like running crazy mileage. So the mileage is just the total amount of miles that you would do in a given week or a given month. And when he was comparing what he was doing to other, let's say, English runners, he thought that he was already like a quite hard-working runner. But then when he compared himself to the Japanese runners, he actually realized that, wait, there is actually a gap and I could be training way more. And actually, my training ability match allows me to train more. So why not try to do it? And so for him, what was interesting was that there was like this change in environment, which allowed him to maybe untap some, like I don't know, discover some potential for him
Mhm.
in a way. And I really like this approach of trying to change your environment and try to change the group of people you compare yourself with, because
Mhm.
that's often like one of the, let's say, limiting factors for your growth. And that works for sports, but also for any things in life, really.
Yeah. We
All
move on
right,
to Jack.
let's go, Jack Burke.
The difficult thing for us will be to make an episode that's not too long, but to talk about the 10 guys. And Jake, I
Yeah,
mean, Jake, he's a awesome guy, so no worries if
yeah.
too
But
much time for Jake.
yeah, we took some time from Jake, but it's also because I think it's the episode that resonated the most
Yeah,
with
yeah,
the
for sure.
audience, and it shows with the numbers of views and stuff. So yeah, lots of
You
insights
wanna
from that one. But Jack
you wanna
Burke,
start for Jack Buck or do you?
I have one. I have one, and it's kind of a sentence that he used a lot, and I felt that when he was the one saying it, I felt I felt that sentence the most, or that quote the most. And it's not a quote from him, but it's a quote from Alex Hormozy that he says a lot, which is, "This is what hard feels like, and this is why so many people quit." And he was telling about that quote when he was talking about his journey to pro cycling, which is still ongoing. And it's been, what, like 15 years? Maybe not 15 years, like 10 years, 13 years that he's trying to become a pro. And he's pretty much be facing setbacks after setbacks after setbacks. And this sentence was used when he was describing the reality of his situation, in how hard it was for him to become a professional cyclist. And I think it's probably harder for Jake to become a professional cyclist than it is for most of the other
For
kind of,
Jack, I mean,
yeah, Jack
yeah.
Burke, yes. Yeah, this was something that we struggled so much. Like Jack, Jake,
Yeah,
yeah, Jack. It's
you will
it's
see
something that
there's a lot of Jack and Jake, and
is
basically
not over.
names with a J.
Yeah, no, but yeah, like really, it seems to be so hard for him to do it. But this sentence kind of helps him, kind of have some perspective on, okay, it's normal to feel that it's hard, because this is what it's supposed to feel like, and this is why most people quit. And I think that's something that really helped him push through the hard moments in his journey. And let's see if
Does it
this year's he will make it to the pro peloton. But
does it
I'm
help
really
you?
excited for him.
Does it help you in your life as well? This sentence, this quote.
I think it hasn't helped me yet, to be honest, because I haven't felt that I have had that moment where everything felt so hard that I wanted to quit. Um, like there've been some moments where I gave up, I don't know, some trainings, but it wasn't, that kind of hard
Hmm.
where it's been like 6 months, 1 year, 3 years that you're doing a project and things are not working. But it's something that I keep in the in a corner of my mind that I'm sure I will use that at one point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good answer. And I had a
Do you have
slightly
one?
different perspective for and that's funny because it shows how different we are in terms of what
Mm.
we remember from episode. But the thing that struck me most with Jack and that helps me maybe uh is staying curious and having a plan B. I guess that's a thing that's a lesson I remember from this episode because with Jack, so he had this huge objective and it was harder every time and there was a lot of setbacks. And what helped him, sorry, really to find balance and to find happiness in his daily life, to find peace in his pursuit was to do different things, was to start different types of business, uh, maybe also
Yeah, he
relate
has the
to
one
this.
book,
He
which
has
is
a book,
great.
so he wrote a book. He has a podcast now, and I feel like with this, he kind of built his plan B, and now he can pursue his dream with with more peace and with a sense of maybe maybe with a sense of yeah, like he's not doing this as if he
His
was to
life depends
die.
on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
his life
we had the
depends
same
on
thing
it.
in mind.
And yeah, I think having multiple interests, it fuels everything you do in your life. And I think it can have a positive effect on every endeavor that you have.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I think it's the most sustainable way in the long term because life, like it's really broad. Like I love football, but I love different things as well. And even for us in emulation, the fact that yeah we could focus only on cycling because that's the thing that works the most, but we like to have this motto of bringing athletes together and bringing all athletes and like putting the spotlight on different sports, on different types of athletes, as because in a way, in an egoistic way, for us it makes it more interesting and we learn things and we discover things and we I don't have the sense of being trapped into only one specific sport and I want to be free in terms of the topics I want to discuss, the topics I want to make content about, and I think Jack was also proof of that.
Yep. I could I keep going on this, but I think
Yeah,
we
I
have
think we'll
to move forward.
yeah,
So number 3 was William Draper, Will Tree on
yeah, on
Instagram and
Instagram.
YouTube
So he's a British triathlete
from the Isle of
and
Man.
from the Isle of Man. He's like 25, I think 24, 25. So he's near really our age. And so it was really interesting to discuss with him because in a way it was really relatable because he hasn't made it yet, but is like is not struggling, but he's kind of that at this equilibrium point where he makes enough money to pay for his season, but not to pay for his life.
Yeah, to
I would
save
say,
money in
yeah.
general. Like everything he earns, I think he spends.
And my cat is
And
wants to go get out of the office, so
perfect.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah. Go open to your cat so she can live freely. Um, but yeah, William Draper was the first triathlete that we interviewed. And the triathletes are always a bit special because they are probably the athletes that have to train the most because of the nature of the sport. And well, we that's the only lesson that Robin spoiled me was that one. So I
Mm,
know where you're going, and he's
mm,
basically, I think, very methodical in his approach to his career because I feel like he really sees his career as a way to earn his living, which is different than for because he doesn't have really like a plan B like some athletes have. Like his plan is really to make a living out of his triathlon career, I feel like. And
Yeah, but
so
I don't feel like he's desperately uh in need of making it. Like he strikes me as a guy that has
that's
the
true.
resources and the mental stability to pivot if needed. And so just I'm gonna say the lesson and then I'm gonna let you talk about it. But the
Yep.
lesson I had from William Draper was don't rush to the finish line, in a way of trusting the process, knowing when to push hard and knowing when it's not the best time to push hard, and basically like enjoy the ride, because everything meaningful takes time, and in sport it's not an exception. So I think it was something I liked his kind of mental clarity of knowing the thing he had to improve in, but knowing that it was not always the time to go all in on improving on different things. And that there was a bit of he had a timing in mind, and he knew that, I mean, it will be really, it will take all of his energy to go all in and to push to get to the best level. And he was not ready yet, but he knows a bit when he wants to be pushing hard.
Yeah, I just hope that he won't miss the opportunity that he's waiting for, because that's the I think the only kind of negative point of that idea is that you're kind of waiting for the stars to align in a way so that you start giving yourself 100% during this whatever 1-2 year period. So I really hope that he's not going to get injured or
No,
anything bad going to happen to him, and that he's going to be able to, at the moment that he feels like he should, give his all. But I like the idea of having periods of your life where like the intensity level changes, and I think that can be really helpful, especially like if you start a project. Like you shouldn't expect it to be very linear in terms of how you distribute your like your input of work, let's say, but it's going to be changing a lot in terms of the seasons, in terms of just the beginning and the phases of a project.
mm.
So I think that can be helpful for that.
And I guess in a more personal way, I think that's what I did with staying in my job for nearly a year after the project had started. In my core, the only thing I wanted to do was quit it and go all in on emulation every day, because that was my instinct and my gut talking. But I feel like, I mean, I'm happy that I listened to my brain a bit on this one, because now maybe I have a bit more security to build patiently. Uh,
Mm.
and so in a way, I feel what he's saying, in that it was not maybe the right time to go all in at the time, and I don't think now we went all in, but we haven't started the full push, I guess. And so it's just good to have sometimes a reminder that sometimes you can trust the process for a longer time than just 3 months, 6 months.
Yeah, I
And
think that was actually the biggest learning from the
yeah, because
podcast
he
with
said,
William. It was just the extent of time he's giving himself to succeed in triathlon. It's not a 1 year project, it's not a 2 year project, it's not a 5 year project. It was like a 10 year project almost.
mm,
And I think maybe he picked that up from training with the Brownlee brothers, as he was explaining, because I think their mindset was really like focus on the Olympics. And they had like 4 year blocks basically of working towards a goal. So, yeah, great things take time. So, take your time, don't rush to the finish line, and
and
reach the finish
enjoy.
line,
Yeah,
hopefully.
I enjoy the moment between the start line and finish line.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we will try to do, and it's hard.
Yeah.
We don't manage to do it every day. Let's
Yeah.
go to the next one.
Número 4,
No-
Asbjørn
Yeah,
Hellemose.
Asbjørn Hellemose. it was a bit of a tricky one because it had a lot of lessons that we already discussed. Like it's a guy that never gave up, that tried and he gave himself a second chance and all of that.
Yeah, so he's a Danish cyclist. Um, I don't remember his age, but I think the most important characteristic of Asbjørn is that he joined the world tour a first time. I think he was there for 2 years. Then his contract wasn't renewed, so he left the world tour for 1 year, and he kind of went all in during that period of time to make it back to the world tour again, which he succeeded to do. And this year he's riding for Jayco Alula, world tour team. And yeah, so basically he was able to achieve his dreams once, lose it, and then achieve it again and make it back to the world tour,
And I guess
which is the highest level in cycling for those that don't know.
the lesson I took from this one is a bit of a different one, but I think it's interesting. It's a bit less related with sports and performance, most like specifically. But the lesson I learned, I wrote on my little notebook was
Is it
embrace,
language?
yeah, embrace your environment,
Okay.
learn the language of the place you live in, make friends. Like, do not only live in your head and for performance and achievement, because this can unlock the concept of serendipity, which is like having unexpected discoveries or opportunities um, while pursuing something else. And I think maybe I'll be wrong in that analysis, but I think it's a bit what happened. He went to Italy to train in a team. He fully embraced the Italian way. He learned the language with the Duolingo like a crazy guy. He met friends, like he got involved in the community. And then when he lost his contract, all these efforts that he went through and that he did to integrate, it gave him the opportunity of solo Wataggio, the amateur team, and
Mhm.
that gave him the opportunity to get visibility because they have a great platform to race in gravel, like to train and do gravel races, and that also helped him come back to the world tour. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I like this idea that you are generous with your life and with the place you live in, and you try to really embrace the environment.
Mm. Yeah, and the great thing about his story was that he really created the opportunity for himself. uh, and it was quite a lot of sacrifice also because he went to Italy, didn't go to university, uh, and so he was the one that reached out to the teams. Like the
Mm.
teams didn't reach out to him, he reached out to them. I think he reached out to 30 teams, only one accepted. So he created that opportunity for himself, and then once he was in the right environment for him, he really went all in. And I think learning the language is really an important one. There are also similar success stories of I think cyclists that came to Europe because that's where apparently you have to be able to make it to make it pro. So learning the language, I think, is really something that if you are in a situation where you could learn the language, I would really advise it for you to do it. I've I I've been in Korea for like a bit of time. I know a bit the language, and knowing just bits of the language already help you so much. So it's I don't think you can honestly regret to learn a language if you are in that country. Like so that's just yeah, a pretty practical tip in the
Yeah,
end. If you are in a country you don't speak the language, learn the language, and you'll be better off no matter
and you
what
can
situation you're in.
you can even learn with Duolingo because Asbjørn like made it. So
Yeah, I haven't tried Duolingo, but yeah,
maybe
maybe it works.
maybe they can
It worked
partner
for
with
him.
the podcast.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
That
no
would be
to that.
interesting.
Yeah,
So fifth episode now would be Jack Thompson.
Jack Thompson.
Jack
Yes.
Thompson, which was really one of the episodes I loved the most in terms of the moment we had with him, and it felt like we were really discussing at a cafe and getting to know each other. So I
Yeah.
really, because it had a bit of a different vibe because Jack is an ultra cyclist and he had a bit of a crazy backstory because he was living in Australia. He had troubles knowing what he wanted to do. He started ultracycling, then he was diagnosed with ADHD. So it was a bit of a bumpy road. And and so
And he was the first one. The thing that struck with me, it was the first one who spoke about anxiety, depression, which is something that we all have felt in our lives, but it's very rare that we get the occasion, let's say, to speak about it. And he mentioned that like maybe 10 minutes into the podcast, which
yeah.
felt really comfortable in the way that he was opening up to us in that discussion. Although, like, when we speak to a guest, usually it's been like, I think maybe 30 minutes since we like first spoke with him. So
Mm.
we don't personally know the guest usually before the episode. Eventually, and hopefully it will keep going like that, but we end up being on quite good terms with the people, and that's great. But yeah, Jack Thompson, yeah, he was special in that he was speaking about this kind of mental health issues, and yeah,
I
always
think
great to.
if you're not into like performance sports and like competition, I think it's the podcast you should start with in terms of our 10 episodes because yeah, it discusses many subjects linked with childhood, how to know what you want to do, how to take the leap a bit, and the lesson I took from this one, I guess it's a bit of a universal one, but it was staying true to yourself because I feel like uh, Jack Thompson he does not conform to what he think he should be, but he just does the thing that he likes to do, and sometimes it's difficult because maybe nowadays, and hate to start things like to start talking like this, but nowadays it's a bit harder because with all the trends everywhere, you kind of are pushed to conform and to do things in a specific way. And I feel like we should trust our instincts more and try to do the thing that we like until it works.
Yeah, I think we are
Uh,
pushed into thinking that what's best for us is to
mm,
conform, whereas the best is just to stay true to yourself. And that's the thing I liked about his project. Like, he doesn't participate in events where there are like there are some clear rules. Sometimes he does with the FKT, which he explained were like the fastest known times from point A to a point B, let's
mm,
say. But he was kind of inventing his own challenges. Like, he was doing like some stupid shit, like 1 million vertical meters of climbing on a bike in a single year, uh, traveling whatever like unexplored place in Australia where you had some very exotic and wild trails, where it was like 40 degrees Celsius. I don't know how many Fahrenheit degrees that is, but it was freaking hot. So he's just setting his own rules because he's he's going for the things that he's like genuinely interested in, and he was able to make a living out of it, which is very respectable. He was the one that reached out to the brands every time. So he had a project he believed strongly enough to reach out to other people that would support his vision, and he made it happen. And he has crazy cool sponsors now. He's working with like what Specialized and this kind of brands. So it's amazing to see.
so yeah, Jack is really the guy I really want his career and to go well. Like I'm like I would be so sad if at some point he struggled to have opportunities and things like this. So Jack, if you listen, it was great.
And he has very cool project coming this year
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Uh, I'm not sure he's talked about them yet, but there was talks about what Tour de France on a whatever vintage bike.
Yeah,
It sounds crazy, stupidly hard. And then
if
going to
this
Asia in some remote places. But yeah,
if you listen to the podcast and it's maybe you feel a specific connection with the episode, or Jack, go and give him some support. I mean, to every of the guys, but Jack maybe needs a bit more.
No, but yeah, probably people don't really realize the extent of the feats that he's done, how
Mm,
crazy athletic he is, and yeah, I mean, he's truly an inspiration for what he's done, and yeah, we'll keep looking forward to what he's going to do in the next months and years
yeah.
because it's always super interesting. Number 6 was Jamie Riddle. Jamie Riddle is a South African triathlete, probably the youngest person we had on the podcast with William
Probably,
Draper,
probably, yes.
and he's already participated in the Olympics in Paris last year. It was really the biggest goal of his, and now he's turning into Ironman, which is the case for many of the short course triathletes this year. Um, and he's done his Ironman debut a few weeks ago. He finished third, and yeah. So, what is the lesson that you have
What the lesson
with
that I
Jamie?
have is choosing your pressure is a privilege. So choosing your pressure is a privilege, and not pressure is a privilege. Why do I say that? Because it's something we said during the podcast, and I
That you
feel
said, yeah.
that I said. That's my lesson. Yeah, that's mine. But it's something that I said because of the discussion we had, and I think that having like really deep reasons why you put yourself through stress is much easier to sustain. I mean, life is always gonna be stressful, but I think we don't realize that we have the opportunity to choose the type of stress we want to have. Um, and I feel like maybe sometimes when you're in a job that you don't like, or you feel bored, or you don't feel a sense of purpose, like it's easy to complain, and I think that we are always a bit partly responsible for our complaints, because in a way, if you hate your job, you can live it, and why do I say that in the context of Jamie Riddle? I feel like Jamie with a he has a stressful life. I mean, it's not easy to train every day, but in the end, it's like he's not in a bad position. Like he has great sponsors, he has a good life, but he chose really the type of suffering he wanted to go through and to endure, and that gives him and that gives all of these athletes in a way uh really a sense of purpose, and a sense of like they control a bit more their destiny than other guys. And yeah, I got lost in my thoughts, but I give you the mic back, William. What do you think about what I just mumbled?
Yeah, but I think it's hard to relate to that because like the pressure you feel at work before doing like a presentation like is different than the pressure you have from like racing in front of your home crowds. So I'm not sure I will be able to feel
No, but the thing I
that, but
want the thing is like, if you hate the pressure of doing a presentation, if you hate the pressure of going to work every day to do some excels,
Mhm.
then like put some control on, like,
Okay, so
earn back
basically I
control
think
on your life.
so
Like, don't
so
be don't
maybe
be an accomplice of your own despair. That's the thing I wrote. And I guess, and
so
that's a personal point of view. I guess
Mhm.
at some point I was complaining a lot, and I was
Mhm.
becoming the accomplice of my own boredom and my own despair, in a way. Um, and I feel like when I deeply think about this period, I had the control over these these emotions. I could have stopped complaining. I could have um, or quit my job or say, okay, now I'm gonna take things in a different way. I'm gonna stop stressing over things that don't matter to me because in the end I was always gonna leave this job. So I was just wasting energy, you know?
Yeah. I feel like maybe it's like a good framework in the way that if you feel that you have pressure doing something that you don't like,
If you
then
have
maybe it's a
kakamu,
sign. Like if you're shitting yourself before going to work every Monday and you're like, "Ugh, this doesn't feel right," then of course it's an indication that there has to be changes done there. Maybe it's in the way that you look at your work, or maybe it's just a sign for you to do something else. And I feel like pressure should make you smile. Like you should be
mm,
kind of in a position where you're happy to feel that pressure. Hence, the pressure is a privilege. But it's only one certain type of pressure, like the chosen pressure,
mm,
the right thing, the thing that you
mm,
like, that makes sense. So yeah,
yeah.
I think
So I
yeah,
think the
I got your point in the end. I hope
I
people
pre
got it too. I hope.
I prefer I prefer choosing your pressure is a privilege than pressure is a privilege because I don't think that's true. Because there are some really bad pressure that we know that stress it can lead to disease and can lead to a reduced life. So and with the project now, yes, we have stress. We don't earn any money, but it's our choice. So I feel like I complain much less and I feel like I'm more in peace
Yeah.
with
I mean, I heard you
it's a more
complain about your
sustainable.
previous job a lot of time.
Yeah.
I never heard you complain once about emulation.
And
So
what I think is like when I hear someone complain, do you really have pity for people that complain? Like, because it's a really when you complain, you feel good about complaining, and you feel like people will really understand and will say, "Oh, yeah, Robin, that's really hard what you go through." But in the end, do we really think that when we're on the other side of the complaints? I don't think so, because everyone has his shit, you know.
yeah.
And
But I mean, there are so many reasons.
I value people that don't complain.
Oh,
I
yes,
don't
that's
value people that never complain, that are unhappy and that never are brave enough to change. But I value people that do not complain and that accept and that in a way control their reaction and their emotions towards their life.
agreed.
Maybe we went a bit far from Jamie, but yeah, Jamie, you're really
Jamie was the incubator of that idea, so
yeah.
props to that.
And sorry for the yeah the English that's a bit that can be confusing sometimes. Episode 7, Guglielmo Bosca, Italian
Guglielmo
skier.
Bosca, mastering your fear to go faster.
Yeah. And the do you have a lesson or should am I the one who did the homework and I'm gonna
Well,
what
I
we're
did
gonna
the
do?
homework, but I did a different one.
But
But
go
if
on.
you have if you have a different approach, go for it.
I'm gonna give you the lesson I took and then you're gonna analyze it. All right?
Okay.
In the So what I took from Guglielmo Bosca's episode was the path to success is rarely a straight line.
The path to success is rarely a straight line. I feel it's kind of obvious, but we forget it when we are chasing something. And hmm, the thing with
In the
Bosca
context
is
of emulation, how can you maybe give it some context? Because I feel we had already some examples.
yeah, I mean, there are like things that you expect that are going to happen. Like you expect some shit, but there is also some unexpected shit that's going to
Mm.
happen. So that's the things that go into like the things that it's not going to make it like a very linear line, I don't know,
Mm.
toward your goal, but you're going to have to dodge things, obstacles. Um, like we've had some issues with the collab feature on our account
Yeah.
that we would have never anticipated. we've received some emails from companies, not companies, but like one organization that wanted to remove content that we did because we were using clips of their mighty grass and things like that.
Then
And
we've had calls where we thought we were gonna have huge opportunities, and that ended up being nothing. And so
yeah,
it's a bit of an obvious lesson, but it's part of the famous unteachable lessons from Chris Williamson at Modern Wisdom, that we quite liked with William, to be honest.
yeah,
And it's a bit the thing that, of course, it seems obvious, but I think there was a tiny part in my head that thought maybe it's a straight line. I mean, because at first it looked like a straight line sometimes when we started,
yeah,
because in a way we lacked so much knowledge and understanding of what it would took to go uh, towards where we want to go. But the
yeah,
thing is, in the case of Guglielmo, like he had huge injuries. He got kicked out of a junior team at the key part, like the key moment, like at 20 years old.
yeah,
He went through mental blocks that like prevented him from racing to his full potential. He got injured again, and it's like expect things to be difficult and the road bumpy, because otherwise you will give up after two setbacks. Like it's
yeah.
important to like let that thing sink in your head that it's gonna be a very difficult road, and I think we don't even imagine the
Yeah.
setbacks that are in front of us now.
But the thing is, like when we start a project, usually we don't realize how hard it's going to be. And it's better that way because if you knew how hard it would be, then you would never start it probably.
Mm.
And there is that book written by Ryan Holiday, which is Obstacle is the Way. And to me, this means that, like whatever project you're on, whatever path you're on, expect an obstacle because there will be eventually. So you don't have any other choices but to expect obstacles because they're going to be there regardless of what the hell you're doing. If you do sports even at an amateur level and you run 20 Ks a week, you will get injured at one point. Like you will get an ankle thing or a hamstring thing or whatever the case might be. But there will be obstacles, so just expect them, and you'll be already much better off if you know that obstacles are coming your way because then you'll be prepared and hopefully you'll know what to do when it happens.
Perfect. Number 8 now,
Number 8. So we've
Jimmy
got
Whelan.
3 episodes remaining. Jimmy Whelan, yeah, Whelan probably. Australian triathlete now, but previously professional cyclist. Um, Quite an interesting journey in that he wasn't expecting to be a professional cyclist until he was injured, I think, in running, picked up cycling, just like most cyclists, I think. And then he was sent to Belgium. He won the race, and it was the U23, so under 23 Tours of Flanders that he won. The funny thing was that in that race, Tadej Pogacar finished 15th. So technically, Jimmy Whelan has beaten Tadej Pogacar in the race, which is a nice thing to have on your resume. And he just went to EF straight directly to the team. So he had that very quick progression in professional cycling. So he had the physiology, he had the engine to be among the best at that level. But what was lacking was the bike handling skills, which exposed him to a lot of risks in the peloton um, that led him many years after to rethink his career choice and to eventually go into triathlon. So what did you learn from that episode?
So on that one, what I got at was optimize on personal peace and happiness. And the context I added on my notebook was sometimes you need to accept necessary changes when it can help you on your way to your own happiness. And in his case, it was going from, I mean, it was first realizing that cycling was not playing uh, a good role in his on his way to peace and to stability and to happiness, and that he knew he had to change. And I think he took some time from that point of understanding, and that cycling was starting to be a difficult thing for him to really getting away from the sport. Um,
How
and I
did you
think
phrase it?
I phrased it optimize on personal peace and happiness.
Yeah, I think that's the most important. Is like ask yourself, and we should do too that probably more often. Is what are you optimizing for? Like, what is the thing that matters to you right now in the project that you're doing? Uh, and the sentence that Jimmy said, which was the most important one that we used in the reel
Mm,
after, was that at the crux of the problem, he wanted to be a happy athlete. Like, probably at that moment in his life, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't have all the details, but from what we understood, like, probably the money part of the equation was being handled. And what mattered to him at that moment was to be a happy athlete. Like, he still wanted to achieve things in sports, but he wanted to do it in a more uh serene manner, or like in a more happier manner,
mm,
whatever that meant for him. But it was outside of cycling, so he was able to understand that from his current position that he had at the time, and make the move to triathlon. And not the crazy thing, but the nice thing with his journey is that he was able to keep some of the sponsors that he had in the pro cycling team to the triathlon team, so he was able to make like a pretty smooth transition. Probably it was still rough to do this kind of transition because it's not easy to move from one sport to the other at the highest level,
mm.
but he did it. And that all started with asking yourself what you're optimizing for and realizing what are the things that you're really after. So yeah.
And I think, like, to give a context with the emulation project, I think when I think about this, I want to stay independent for the longest time possible because I feel like it's what gives me the most peace and happiness. Like I like to work and to have stress, but if it can stay our stress, our pressure for the longest time possible, even though we might work with different people, that's not an issue. But if for the most part it can remain within uh, our uh, our own head or our own reasons for putting us through stress, then that's, I think, what would give me peace and happiness.
Yeah,
But
I'm
which
looking at the ceiling, but yeah,
and
that's
if I can add something, is
yes,
that's
please.
a bit different, is, and that's something we discussed also with Matt C. Smith, the episode that will come out soon. I mean, that will be already out when you listen to this, is to remember your mental state before you made a big decision, and to come back to it whenever you feel lost and whenever you doubt that it was the good decision. Because sometimes, sometimes when I feel like I have stress with this project, or I don't really know where to go, or I'm like, what am I even doing? Like, am I trying to play the guy that works, or am I really building something meaningful? I come back to what I felt at my previous job, and I'm like, okay, now I understand the reason why I changed my life a bit, and
Mm.
we need to, like, it's important to respect our past selves. Sometimes we try and modify the past, and that doesn't help the present self.
Yeah, and that's probably the case with Jimmy too. Like, I'm sure, like, he did his first professional Ironman race a couple weeks ago, and I'm sure maybe there was, or maybe not, but maybe there was a thought of him, what if I just go back to, professional cycling? I was getting a better salary there, and I was at least better also, because he got, I think, smashed in the swimming so bad it was hard for him to compete in the race. So yeah, probably for him it's probably useful to go back to what was his mental space like before switching to the sports. And yeah, whenever I think about what my previous job was like, and I love the person whom I was working and stuff, but just the feeling you had, like when it was after lunch and you wanted to sleep
Mm.
after eating whatever, and you're like, ugh, I gotta
A
do this job
Monday
that I don't
feeling.
really care.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, then you get some energy to do the things that really matter.
Ninth episode, Gregoire Munster, rally driver, WRC rally driver, one of
Yeah,
the 9 on the grid.
one of the 9. Yeah, only 9 drivers in WRC in the World Rally Championship, which is crazy to think. I thought that it was always more than that, but
Mhm.
actually the sport is way more niche than what I thought, which is interesting. It seems that they're struggling a bit, I think, to have enough money to finance the drivers, because it just costs so much money. I mean, I think how do you call them? The automobile sports,
Motorsports.
motorsports are already so expensive, and rally, like, you're smashing the car every time you go for a ride or a training ride. It's crazy. But a nice story nevertheless. And
And the lesson
wh-
from this one was don't wait for the perfect moment. Uh, that's what
okay,
made
I
me
have a
take.
lesson for this
Yeah,
one. So
go.
don't wait for the perfect moment. But there is one lesson I think that is kind of like an overall lesson that kind of applies to anyone, is that I always felt like in my life I was like always late to start the project. Like I think every kid has had dreams at one moment of, oh, what if I could be like this professional athlete in whatever sport? But then you're like, ah,
Mm.
I should have started the year before, or I
Mm.
should have studied earlier. And the surprising thing with Gregoire was that he started so late driving. He
Mm.
started at 20, 22.
Yeah, I mean, he started this journey, like his mental journey of
Probably he was
I want to
driving
be a
cars
rally
before,
driver
but he started
at
late.
18.
Like, to be really committed,
Mm.
it was quite late compared, I think, to other
Mm.
drivers or other sports at least. So that was kind of reassuring in that if you have a project, actually, it could work out really well for you, even if you're starting the project late.
Mm.
And so the quote is like, the best time to start was yesterday, but the second best time is now, is today. And that worked really well for Gregoire. And it also links well with your lesson, which is
Don't wait for the
action.
perfect moment.
Don't wait for the perfect moment, which is just an incentive for you to take action.
And
Uh,
because in his case, he almost didn't do a series of race because he thought he was not ready for them, and in the end he did
yes.
them, and that's what gave him a spot on the grid. And like I feel like the perfect moment, it never exists. It's more of a fear reflex that we have, uh, and that it's like aiming for something that gets further every time, the perfect moment, and it prevents you even from that concept of serendipity. Um,
What is serendipity?
Serendipity, I mean, the
What
definition,
is it in French?
unexpected discovery of something valuable or meaningful, often while pursuing something else. I think there would be many definitions,
Okay.
but that's how I see this as the, you do things, you lean forward, and then you get unexpected opportunities from it that can be from like linked to the actions you did, or
Hmm.
different things.
But you know what? I think that this is probably the most important lesson. Okay, I don't want to to say it like that, but
Mm.
the thing that I heard the most from the conversations we had was always like some versions of take action. Uh, you have to lean forward. You have to start a project. There is whatever quest for adventure, trying something, reaching out. Like, action was really always the most important thing. So any of the 10 people that we have interviewed so far, all of them at one point they took the initiative to do something different, or to push themselves harder, or to do things, um, to commit themselves. I think that's the important word. So yeah, whatever things you want to do, like you have to commit yourself, otherwise nothing will happen. And
And I think
yeah,
if
and like nothing happens in your couch basically.
if you're
If
not
it,
convinced, you can go right now and look at our first reels, and you see that we started at a moment that what clearly was not perfect. Like the level we were at in terms of editing was far from the one we are at now, and will be far from the one we are at in a year. So I think the thing is more actions leads to more answers and leads to less anxiety. And I was the guy that was thinking a lot, had big plans, and that was never doing them, and and it was stressful. And then at some point, I lost trust in my own capacity of actually making it and following the plans that I had.
Mhm.
And it's only when I committed to doing things, even though I was not yet at the level I hoped to be, that it started to shift. Yeah. And the last one, last but not least, Matthew Smith.
Matthew Smith, the legend,
Yeah.
the snowbuck. It's how he calls himself on TikTok, which is not something that I use too much. Like we don't post much on TikTok, to be honest. We are mostly on Instagram. But Matthew Smith, I think he is the guy that taught us the most lessons in the podcast. And the funny thing is that he's probably the one that is the least athletic among all. I mean, Gregoire Munster is a bit different because he's like a driver, but the guy that has the least high, I don't know if you can say that, the least high level of performance among all our guests.
Yeah. People
People
will
will
understand
understand.
and will
Yeah.
maybe leave the podcast at that
And
point.
and that was great in that, like, the level of insights of value that you have is not dependent on how good you are in a sports. And Matthew Smith was so good on giving us so many insights. He's maybe the oldest person we had. Like he was, I think he's
Yeah,
34.
maybe.
He's
I don't
34.
know
So
how old is Jack Thompson, but yeah.
yeah, among the oldest. And he was just back to back to back to back, giving us very valuable lessons. I think it's the episode I enjoyed the most in that it gave me so much to think
Mm.
about. So what is the one thing that you
What
picked up
I
from that episode?
what I picked up, and there are many things, and in the end, most of the episodes had common themes, but on this one, what I got up was value your vision and instincts, even when it hasn't paid off yet.
It's funny because I have 4 other ones that I wrote, and it's not among them. So
And
okay,
I'm just gonna finish like talking about this one, and then
yeah,
leave you with the other ones. And it was in the way that every good idea starts in the head of just one person, and sometimes we are insecure in the way that, as it's still an idea that came from our head, we can be the victim of people that have higher status, that have uh, pro that have proved that they could build businesses or things like this, and we can feel so small, um, and we can maybe forget that our idea maybe is a good idea and that we can push it
yeah.
until it works.
But it's tough because we haven't managed to make successful businesses so far.
Yeah.
So we haven't had the proof that it could work. So that's why it's so hard to believe in your vision when you haven't had proofs of success yet.
Mm. But I
But in
think
the end,
you shouldn't wait for success to stand up for yourself, in a way.
yeah.
It's a bit It's a
Yeah,
bit
I
what I
like it
wanted to
like that.
say.
Yeah.
And that's difficult, especially if you have a personality where you don't have that kind of crushing the other personality, and I don't feel like we have this.
Yeah, I mean,
But
we are
I
kind
feel
of this
like
people
mm,
pleasing,
mm,
both of us, in that if we have a call with someone that is trying to whatever find a way to collaborate all of three
mm,
together doing video editing or something like that, more times than not we are going to say yes to whatever he's suggesting.
yeah.
And the more time we've been doing it, the more we are able to stand up for how we actually see things. Because if we just follow if we just follow blindly the vision of the other, we'll just end up in a spot where it's not working. So
And I
yeah,
think even during this year, if we'd had followed people saying, "Oh, you should stop maybe making these types of videos, or you should start doing this, or you should start doing this, or you should not do a podcast like this," or I think we would have been pretty much lost. And something that happened is that I remember at some point I made a video, and one of my friends, he said, it's not working, you should stop making these kinds of videos. I think you should change, like now the trend is different. And at that time I was almost buying it because the video that I just did work didn't work well. And I remember that the like 2 days after I did the club video, Jürgen Club, and it got 1 million views, and I was like, okay, now I'm gonna listen only. I mean, we're gonna listen to each other and to ourselves, but try to. Sometimes it's important to say to yourself, "What if I had the good way, the good way of doing things? What if I had the right idea? What if I had the right
yeah.
instincts?"
Like if there is a balance between self-confidence and self-doubt, I feel more times than not we are in the self-doubt part
Mm.
of the whatever equation or balance. So yeah, it might sound cocky sometimes if you feel like you know better than the others, although you don't have proof that you're right. But in the end, you have to be right only one time for
Mm.
things to work. So yeah, it's nice. The other I have so there were I think four other main lessons from Matthew Smith. So I will tell you the four, and you tell me which one we should elaborate.
Okay.
Okay, there was be unexpected,
Mm-hmm.
play the cards you're dealt with, future math versus current math as a
Okay.
framework to make decisions, and seriousness versus enjoyment.
Okay, now I remember, because the thing is, as I didn't edit this podcast, I couldn't listen to it
Yeah,
yet. So I tried to do it on my own thoughts. And now the things you tell me ring a bell. And I think I want to elaborate on the play the cards you're dealt, because it's something
yeah,
he repeated a couple of times.
yeah. So I
And
think
I
there are two
mm,
parts of this: playing the cards you're dealt with. First is understanding what are the cards that you have. So for Matt, the cards that he had was that he was living in Norway. He couldn't do his triathlon training, and he had to find reasons to stay in that country so that he doesn't end up in a relationship where he's
mm,
living in a country that he doesn't want to live in just to please his partner. And that's where he met a Mexican guy that was representing his own country in cross country skiing, and he had that light bulb moment, as he said, to start cross country skiing. So he had the cards in hand, and he just decided to play them, and eventually it worked out well for him. Uh, so for us, what would that mean? It would mean that first of all, you shouldn't try to change the cards that you have. First of all, just acknowledge what are the things that are going well for you, or just what are the things that you have right now. Get a sense of your situation, and then make the best out of it.
and
Because
also
it,
an
yeah,
important part is that he knew he liked living in this country, you know. So focus maybe on the things you like in your life and how can you optimize around this.
Yeah, so for us in the emulation,
We like making the podcast.
this is a life exercise for us. Um, but and I think it's something that is really helpful for you too if you take the time to do it. Well, we'll see if it's helpful. If it's not, then we'll just cut it in the editing. But basically, we started the podcast and we haven't really talked about why.
Mhm.
But the things that we were good at was video editing. We had a good Instagram with a fairly good like follower and like to ratio count
Mm.
kind of things, which meant that people were interested in our account or being featured in it. Like, and we had this maybe sometimes nice way to tell stories, which other athletes appreciated, liked, and therefore it was kind of easy for us to go the podcast way because we could reach out to people on Instagram and then tell us, let's do a podcast together. And then with that podcast, we can make some reels with it. And that's how the opportunity to create a
Mm.
podcast really started.
But the thing is, if I go back 5 years ago, when I was 20 years old, I would have imagined my life in a, I mean, it would have been more easier to imagine that I would have a podcast than that I would do editing. So in a way, it was more of a, because I started listening to podcasts quite young, and I always quite liked this idea of, I mean, I like talking to people, and I feel like I'm not too bad at it, and so it was always something that appealed me and that attracted me. Whereas editing was maybe more of a, I mean, I don't know.
But you know what? If I would go back to, let's say, the beginning of university, I wouldn't think about podcasting, video editing. I would just think about, okay, I'm here at university. Like, instead of waiting 5 years until I graduate, let's make the most out of my time at university. Let's meet
Mm,
as many people as I can. Let's try to make cool
mm,
connections, maybe do more sports, maybe listen more in class and these kind of things. I think it's a nice mindset to take action and not wait for whatever thing scenario you had in your mind of, okay, I will take care of that later. I think it's a good way to, because eventually you're going to see opportunities if you do that kind of thinking exercise. Like
uh,
once you see the situation you're in, I think anytime you're going to have a nice opportunity and you'll have something to be curious about. So
mm. But at the same time, I don't want people to feel stressed out and feel like they are late because they haven't started the thing that they think they might like. Because you know, if like if we try to analyze this, so 5 years ago already, when I listened to podcast, I felt like that was something I would enjoy, and I felt a bit already late from not doing it, even though the people I was listening to were like 30 years old. So it was absurd, you know. So you should play the cards you dealt, but you should also know when to play them. And it's sometimes you should not play them directly. It's like in poker, you know. You if you have a good if you have good cards, it doesn't mean like you go all in on the first round, you know. You have to wait and build up. And so, but I think the main thing is to also understand, and that's what you said at first, not don't want to do not spend your life wanting to change the cards you have, because that's not gonna happen and you're not gonna make anything from it. And I think maybe we spend too much time and we have like getting frustrated of the traits we didn't have.
yeah.
Like for example with girls or anything. and in the end it's when you focus and on yourself and the things you like to do that you're the most attractive and attracted to things, and that you're the best at what you want to do.
And I feel obliged to kind of leave a note here
Mm.
and say that these lessons and these things that we are telling you right now, like you don't have to apply it to the word because everyone's context is so different. So like the most important is just that you pick the concepts that you like and that make sense for you,
Mm.
and it could have a totally different meaning than us,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. Like what matters is that it makes sense for you and that it helps you in whatever situation you're in. So don't
And I'm
feel like you
pretty
have
sure.
to be working towards the way that we see things, but it's just like kind of reflections that we've had with the discussions that we've been doing for the last weeks that leave
Mm.
us to give you these lessons, but you shouldn't take it for
I'm pretty sure
word by word.
things we said might contradict. So that
Yeah.
also gives perspective into, yeah, all these lessons they are to eat and to drink, as we say in French. So whatever feels like something interesting that rings, that lights a bulb in your head,
Yeah.
maybe.
I am looking for my phone.
Yeah, I have it, and I have the questions of the followers,
Okay, I will take it as
if
well.
that's what you wanted to.
Yeah, so I think we are done with
Yeah.
the part with the lessons from the 10th episode we've had. Obviously, more guests are coming. We haven't recorded any other episodes than the one after Matsy Smith, but hopefully we have some cool episodes going. And if you're still listening to the podcast right now, then you're kind of part of a specific part of the people that go until
Mm.
the end of the episodes they watch. And so if you have some feedbacks, please make sure to leave it. Uh, we actually read every Instagram message we are being sent.
Yeah.
So Instagram is the best place to give us tips or whatever ideas, or just send us a message to tell us you've been listening to the podcast, because it's really nice for us. It's the comments we
Mm.
like to receive the most. So thank you for that. All right, what is the question numero uno?
I'm gonna ask you the question that's the hardest, because I don't want you to ask it to me.
Okay.
So it's from H. Carrer. I don't know if it's. How do you guys see emulation 2 and 5 years from now?
Okay, it's nice because I have an answer, and it's because I listen to many podcasts these days, and actually, I don't even know if it's my answer or if I'm just repeating the answer that someone else gave to that question. That's always a tricky one. Uh, but I will be repeating the answer that I heard because I feel that it makes sense, and I think you don't necessarily have to have a vision for where you want your projects to be in 5 years, because I feel that right now, my current daily, let's say, routine or weekly routine is like strong enough, like the system that I'm doing, which is to work every day on emulation, whether that is editing, preparing for a podcast, trying to find people for their podcast, or developing ideas, is strong enough that I feel like it's going to lead me to a place that is like satisfying in a way.
Mm.
So I don't really rise up. Like that's the famous sentence from James Clear in the Atomic Habits book, is that you don't rise up to the level of your goals, but you rise up to the level of your systems. So we don't really have a goal with emulation. Like we have some bucket items. Like, okay, if I could make like a podcast with Lionel Sanders, that would be like a dream in a way. Um, but then it's just like systems that we have with Robin and I. We just make some videos like, okay, I do 2 videos this week and we did a podcast
Mm.
together and this kind of things. And I feel that's good enough for me. I don't know
Mm.
how about you, but that's how I
No,
see.
I feel it's a really good answer, and I feel it can be pressurizing to set a goal for 2 and 5 years, while we are still building and we don't really know what goal we want to have. So I like what you said, and also maybe what we try and do every week, and we don't do it as often as we should, is to have an hour where we take some time to reflect on what we do and what we would like to do, and try to take a bit of perspective, and I think that's a system that will help us reach goals that we deeply connect with, and so yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. So we have then a question from Oscar Show. Do you use Premiere Pro?
Yes, we use Premiere Pro, and that's I have a funny answer about this, is because you know what was a big inspiration when we started creating content for Emulation was by maximize. And I guess we have come full circle now, because we started by asking what types of font he was using, what types of tool he was using, and now people are asking us. So
Yeah.
that's funny. But we are nowhere near his level. But we don't even want to reach his level, because I mean, our project is different.
Yeah. But we use Premiere Pro and Adobe in general. It
Yeah.
works great if you want to do content or whatever. Honestly, Adobe is strong.
Then we have a question from from Adrien Boulic. What's
Adrien Boulic
next?
that we both know.
Yeah. What's next in terms of type of sports slash athletes? Amazing job, by the way, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. I think so. What's next? Well, there is many kind of like criteria for
Mm,
choosing a guest. There's the sports, there's the but honestly, what I like most about a guest is just the story. So I want to have
mm,
as many different stories as I can.
mm.
And
And there are as many different stories in the same sport as there are people.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
And
And
maybe,
so we'd
yeah.
like to have girls, I think, on the podcast. We don't do it like to have a quota of the amount of people that we have from each sex or whatever, but it's just because I have never talked to a female athlete,
Mm,
to a professional female athlete ever, and I feel like they might have a very interesting perspective on certain topics
mm.
that it's different from the guys. So that is one. Um, and then I don't know, just keep doing what
I'd
we're
love
doing.
to have like a tennis player or football player, because these are sports that I'm more connected with, but it's hard. These are hard catch, hard to catch. But I think maybe what I could answer, and it's a bit in the same way of trying to answer it while as in the same time not giving a specific answer. I don't really care about the sports and the athletes. Now what we want to do with the podcast is really to focus on the identity we wanna have in the podcast, and I feel, and we feel that maybe sometimes we lost that in some of the episodes, and focused a bit too much on the specifics of a sport. And what we want to do is to focus on more on the journey, on the universal things that athletes go through during their career, and during their um, their journey to making it a bit. And I feel like it's what I want to have meaningful conversation with athletes, and that's the goal, whatever the sports.
So this is what's next. Meaningful conversations with athletes from any sports. And
Yeah.
yeah. Who is designing? So question from Federo Yask.
No,
Ask
Fede
Jask.
Rojas. Fede Rojas, I think.
Okay. Who is designing the editing strategy? Is a professional editor or just one of you?
I mean, we are.
So this is a compliment. Thinking
Yeah.
that we have an editing strategy is a pretty sweet compliment. But in the end, we still have a strategy in that we do podcast reels that we want
Mm.
that we don't want people to know it's a podcast reel, but in the
Yeah.
end, they are here to kind of invite you to listen to the episodes we do on the podcast, and then we have reels on some events that have happened recently in the sports. Let's say the monument in
Mm.
cycling, or a certain player retiring. So this is kind of the editing strategy that we have,
Yeah.
and it's just Robin and I doing all of it.
And basically, we trust each other to have good ideas and
Mm.
execute them well. And I think there are two remaining questions about our backstory and respective lives. And I think we've discussed a bit at first, and we'll maybe dive a bit in the next episodes for you to have a bit more of an understanding of who we are and why we do this. At the same time, we we are learning about why we are doing this and how to improve and how to make it a meaningful yet a project that is sustainable. Because in 2 years, if we don't earn any money, then it's gonna be dead, and you won't have any cycling edits, so you will be all sad.
All
But
right.
yeah,
Any things to wrap up the podcast, or we just
no,
end it here?
thank you very much. I hope it was not too. I hope it was interesting, and hope that you liked that uh, kind of a medley of lessons and that we discussed about every athlete. I hope it gives you also like curiosity to into listening to the episodes and the previous ones. And yeah,
And that's something also about, I think, our podcast, is that they are kind of timeless. Like, I wouldn't be, I mean, of course I'm saying that because it's our podcast, but like, I feel that any of the podcasts we've done, for the most part, they are timeless in that no matter when you listen to them, they will be relevant. So yeah, don't hesitate to go back to the episodes we have recorded in the past if you've been interested by a specific lesson or specific athlete's journey. We thank you all for listening and for the athletes that made it to the podcast. And yeah, we'll keep on going. This is not the end. We are very excited to keep doing it, improving also on it, because we are aware that we have some languages kind of tics, habits that might trigger some of you, even if you don't say.
if you feel cringe sometimes when we are talking, just imagine that we feel the same way but times 100.
Yeah.
So yeah. And actually, I really hope that you like it, because I really liked recording this episode. So I would love to do other ones. But yeah, bye bye, guys.
Leave a 5-star review on Spotify.
Yeah,
Subscribe
leave
on YouTube. This is the most important.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
All right,
girls.
take care.
See you.
Adios. Bye bye.